Page 717 is where it starts.
Chapter 38.
Yeah.
Is this a one-a-day chapter?
Yeah, this is a one-a-day chapter.
And the like the census?
This is about the census, that's right. Hold on just a second, I forgot to open this up.
I still about like the census.
Well, I mean, you're saying census, and I thought it was like a scientific term.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Snake. Let's talk about the different senses. Do y'all know the senses?
Well, there's 5.
Touch,
Touch,
smell,
taste,
sight, hearing,
Balance.
Dead people.
balance.
Nailed
We say that
it.
again.
Balance.
I see dead people.
Touch, sight, hearing, taste,
Six.
smell, balance.
What's the sixth sense?
We're going to talk about taste first. Here's how taste works. There's a tongue, and if you look at the surface of your tongue under an electron microscope, this is what it would look like. Isn't that weird? And if you go up close and you see these little bumps are called papillae. And the bumps have little cracks in them. Do you see this little crack right here? If you were a little microscopic man walking along the surface here, you might fall into one of these cracks. And while you're falling, you would fall past little groups of cells called taste buds. This is a taste bud. They're not on the top of the tongue, they're on the sides. And there are, on the sides of the little papillae. And there are cells here, which we see, these lighter colored cells, that have little hairs on their ends. They're called microvilli. And the little hairs all have protein receptors. So here's one of these little villi, and each little villi has a receptor, has a bunch of receptors on its surface, you see, for capturing different molecules.
What is that?
This is one of the villi that are right here. See these little hairs here?
And that's on the tongue.
Yeah, this is on the tongue.
So it's not just in the small intestine.
No, yeah, there are villi in a lot of places. Villi just means hair-like structure. Yeah. And so what happens when you eat, the molecules of your food will stick to some of these receptors that are on the villi. And when they do, it sends a nerve signal to the brain saying, we've caught something. So for instance, sugar has a sweet taste. It's because one of the sugar molecules binds to the receptor, and that sends a message to the brain, and the brain knows that this villi picks up sugar. And so you have something sweet in your mouth. The brain likes that. The brain wants more. That's how taste works. Smell works basically the same way. If you smell something, you take a whiff of the rose here, and the little molecules from the rose go up into your nose, and there are a bunch of little cells lining the roof of your nasal passageway that also have villi on them. Little tiny villi with little tiny receptors. and the molecules will be picked up and you'll be able to smell them.
Does it send a signal to your brain again?
Say that?
Does it send another signal to your brain?
Yes. The only time you can ever sense anything is when your brain picks it up. So the signal moves down. This is called the olfactory bulb, and the signal moves down to the brain. Have you ever heard the word olfactory means smell?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a good science word. So smell and taste are very similar. They work basically the same way. And they've found out that you actually have taste sensors in your nose. And you have smell sensors in your mouth.
We read about
They're
that
kind
in
of
2018.
overlap. And we've done psychology experiments where if you close off your nose, you won't be able to taste things as well. Because the sensation is actually a mix of the smell and the taste. So I remember some students for me in psychology did an experiment where you put a clothespin on your nose and then you'd eat Skittles and you'd have to say what color Skittle it is you're eating while blindfolded. And everyone could do it, no problem, with the nose open. But with the nose closed up, you couldn't do it. People were very bad at it. Isn't that cool? What's that?
Heard like that thing, if you close your nose, you can't taste things.
Yeah, that's why when you're taking cough syrup or something, just hold your nose and it goes down a little easier.
Doesn't work for Beverly though.
So there are tasting, how would you say there's taste like receptors in your nose?
Yeah, up here at the top, see the molecules come in and they bind with the receptors and a signal goes off to the brain telling you what you smell.
Does it work in the mouth too?
Mm-hmm.
So is each receptor for a different type of smell, like sour smell or a onion smell or something like that?
Yes. They've isolated, there's probably 4,000 or so different smell receptors. So you can smell about 4,000 different things. And some things don't fit into any of the receptors and they have no odor.
Is that why you have like odorless?
Yeah, there are chemicals that don't have any odor because you don't have a receptor that can sense it. That can bind to it. And the same with taste. Some things are tasteless.
So you do really do.
But you can see up close, here are the little hairs that hang down from the roof of the nasal cavity. And when they receive the odor molecule, it sends a message to the brain here. This is a nerve cell that comes up here, and it synapses right here, and the nerve cell goes to the brain.
How does I'm sorry, where do we get the name olfactory?
I don't know. That just means smell.
What's the olfactory bulb
That's this thing right here.
in the brain?
Yes, it's part of the brain. It's got pathways that lead to the brain. It's actually a nerve that hangs off the brain, but lies touching the brain. The next thing they talk about in the book is vision. There's kind of a couple ways that animals, and by the way, we don't smell, our sense of smell is not as developed as most animals because we evolved in the trees and odor molecules are heavy and they stay near the ground. So if you got your nose near the ground, a sense of smell is a very good thing. Like a dog has a real good sense of smell because their nose is right next to the ground, and so they can learn a lot from the molecules that are there. But up here, far from the ground, we don't get many smell molecules up here, so our sense of smell has evolved to be less and less useful. Our sense of sight is kind of taken over, and we have a real good sense of sight. Anyway, this shows a compound eye, which is what a lot of animals have. And a compound eye is basically thousands of eyes working together. It shows the structure of it here. You don't have to memorize all the different parts of the compound eye. But a compound eye is basically a lot of images put together, and it usually can see all around really well. Like this eye is in such a way that some of the little lenses are pointing forward, and some of them are pointing backward.
How does it see?
And so it has a brain that can process all of it at once. So it can see all around it. So it's hard to sneak up on a fly. Compound eyes don't make out images the same way our eyes do. They can see movement really well, but they can't see detail very well. Like a fly couldn't read these letters. It would just see gray.
Why?
But because for some reason it processes movement better than detail. Movement is more important to flies.
Would it be like looking through a kaleidoscope?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of like looking through a kaleidoscope. You can see when something moves, but you can't see any detail.
So that's how they see their world? It's like kaleidoscope?
Sort of.
Sounds so cool.
Here's how this flower looks to us. Here's how it would look to a fly.
It's like I can see
A lot of insects use the ultraviolet portion of the spectrum too, instead of all the colored portion.
So can they
Use
see
some of the
lines?
colored and some of the ultraviolet. We can't see ultraviolet. So this black area here is, you can see in the ultraviolet, but you can't see it in regular vision. Here's how our eyes work. Light comes in, it goes past the cornea here, through the cornea. This is just kind of a protective layer. And then there's this iris. This is the colored part of your eye. The iris adjusts the amount of light coming in. And it can open wide when it's dark to take in more light, and it'll close up when it's bright. So the iris adjusts the light level. It's very good at that. You want to see how that works? Look, stare into one of your friend's eyes real quick. I'll close this up so it gets a little darker. I'm serious. Stare into somebody's eye. Do it now. I'm commanding you. Stare into somebody's eye. You got to get kind of close. Get kind of close.
Well, don't
Stare into
worry.
one another's eyes.
Pretty eyes.
Look at their iris.
What color are they?
And when I turn on the light,
Because they're like brown towards center. Like
when I turn on the light, come on.
they're like grayish blue.
Oh my god! That was crazy!
That's so cool.
See it adjust. Okay, one more time.
I'm gonna record you people doing
One more time. Watch the
Staring
iris.
romantically into each other's eyes.
The iris will constrict when I turn the light on to adjust the
It's a
light
movie
level.
moment right here. Filmed. We're gonna be on it. Are we just on the film?
I'm not
Yes, I
making
backed it
this
up so I
up.
can
It
see
really
it.
happened.
So wait, why do they,
You guys should go watch that tonight.
What?
when they like dilate your eyes, why do they do that?
So they can see in there better. They want to see what's going on in your eye. They got to look through the opening here. The opening's called the pupil. So they'll dilate your eyes so they can see in there real well. And then there's a lens right here. The lens is actually made of cells. But the cells have grown in such a way that they're clear and they're hard. It's almost like hard plastic. But it's cells. And that focuses, the lens focuses the light on the back of the eye. Now here's your back of the eye, this yellow part here. It's called the retina. And the retina is full of cells. It has something like 100 million cells. And the cells come in two types. They're called rods and cones. Have you ever heard of those before?
We learned this in 8th grade.
Yay!
Childhood game.
Yeah.
Rods can sense movement and light levels. Cones can sense detail and color. So, for instance, take a look up here. You can read that word, right?
Deuterostomes.
Okay, keep looking at deuterostomes. Stare at deuterostomes. You probably can't read this word unless you look right at it, because you're seeing this with your rods, not your cones. Your cones are concentrated in one area of the retina. It's the area where you're staring at something. So now shift your gaze over and you can read the words. But now that you're looking at this, you probably can't read what's over there. So you have to be looking right at something to see it with your cones, because all the cones are right here on the retina, at what we call the fovea centralis. That's where all the cones are. And again, cones can sense color and detail. So again, look at the word deuterostome. And, hold on, I need an eraser. Looking at the word deuterostome? Okay? You probably, if you're looking at deuterostome, you might have a tough time telling what color that is I just wrote.
Blue.
Yeah, I can't tell.
And, but if you look right at it,
Green?
Blue, black, green.
you look right at it, it's easier to tell the colors because the cones sense the colors. It's harder to tell. Now, there are some cones spread out on the rest of the retina, but not many.
So can rods see everything?
Rods only see light and dark and movement. So stare at deuterostomes again. Although you can't tell what is written over here, what word is here, you can probably see my hand moving, can't you?
Yeah.
Rods are real good at picking up movement.
Then codes.
And so so how it evolved is you see something move out of the corner of your eye, then you look right at it to figure out what it is. Isn't that interesting?
But can your eye like
What
move
kind of text
smoothly, or does it always need to be like tracking something?
It can move. It can do both.
To
It
codes
seems like
and,
whenever I
like,
look at
focus
something,
and
you
color.
look straight on it,
Yeah.
pinpoint. You know, you can't really like look around it.
Uh-huh.
You know, if you're looking at an object, you're looking right at it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right. Cones come in 3 colors: red, blue, and green. And to get a color, you have to have firing of all 3 types. For instance, to get a color that's, for instance, white is a firing of all 3 cones: red, blue, and green. So it takes a lot more energy for the cones to work. They basically have to do 3 times the work because they're firing 3 signals to get 1 color.
So rods are the ones that are.
Light, dark, and blue.
Rods can see lightness and darkness and movement real well, and they're all over the retina. Cones are located mostly right here, and they see color and detail.
Can you point where the cones mean?
Right there. Cones there, rods everywhere else.
And that's
That's the retina,
Foveo
the
centralis.
fovea centralis.
That's the only place cones are.
That's where cones mostly are. There's a few cones scattered around everywhere else, but not many. Most of the cones are here. And then the other layers of the eye provide blood to the cells and provide protection. Interesting.
So where are cataracts when you get them? What is that?
Cataracts are problems with the cornea, where there's a growth of the cornea that you have to get like shaved down or cut off or removed somehow. There's all sorts of eye problems.
We dissected an eye once.
Anyone here? Yeah, we do that. We're going to do that in anatomy. Anyone here want to be an eye doctor?
They freak me out.
Here's something interesting. As you see an object on the retina, it's flipped upside down. So the lights come in and are directed by the lens, so everything appears upside down on your retina, and the brain flips it back over for you.
Has anyone tried that? Did that experiment where you flip it over again?
Yeah, there was a guy that did an experiment where he wore glasses that flipped everything upside down, and in about 2 weeks, his brain had figured it out, and everything appeared right side up to him. Then he took the glasses off, and everything was upside down again. And it took it several days to flip it back. And he wrote in his little journal that he wasn't sure if maybe he had done some permanent damage to his vision, and everything was going to be upside down the rest of his life. But he was pretty sure it would flip it back over, and he was right.
Oh, yeah, if everything was going to be upside down for the rest of my life, then he just keep
How did he write when things were like upside down? Like, how did he...
Well, he practiced doing it at first, and it was real hard. But after a while, the brain figured it out, and everything appeared right side up to him. One morning, he woke up, and everything was right side up.
So it's like
Like
eyes
the
that
bitch, you
turn.
do it backwards.
No, the brain figured it out. The brain does it for you. The brain processes the vision.
How did the brain know?
Because they're like
The brain is smart. It can figure things out. The brain can go, wait a second, everything's upside down, and then make it appear the right way for you.
So your retina projects it, flipped upside down, and
Yes.
your brain figures
No,
it
the lens flips it upside down. The retina sends the signal, whatever it's seeing, to the brain, and then the brain makes the picture out of it.
So the lens is what flips it.
Yes. That's a look at what the rods and cones look like. This is what a cone looks like. That's what a rod looks like. I'm sorry. This is what a cone looks like. That's what a rod looks like. So that's why they call them rods and cones. They look like rods and cones. The actual cells do. They know that some animals just have rods. You know, animals that can't see color, like a deer, it's just got pretty much mostly rods, very few cones. That's why you can hunt in an orange vest. They can't see the color. They just see movement. So if you're still and you're in the orange vest, they can't see detail either. They can't see you.
So if
Only when you move.
If you're colorblind, does that mean you don't have cones?
Yeah, one of your cones isn't working right. Most people who are colorblind are red-green colorblind, and the cone that takes care of those isn't quite working right.
So
But they can see other things because their other cones are working.
That's an excellent trick, right? So
It
it's-
is.
Yeah.
Was that picture taken with an electron microscope?
Yes, that's an electron microscope picture.
Wait, so
The
can
color
dogs
is
only see black
false.
and white?
What's that?
Do dogs only see black and white?
Dogs are mostly black and white, yeah.
So they only have cones.
Mostly. They have some rods, but not much.
All their colors false community, they just color so you can distinguish between one's one.
So is that why like I'm sitting in a chair in
didn't
my
hear what you
room,
said.
my dog?
Do they only just add that color just so you can
Doesn't
distinguish?
see me.
Yeah, they add that color in later so you can see the difference. What'd you say?
I'll be like sitting in my room in a chair, and my dog will walk in and it like won't notice me until I move.
There you go.
Yeah, you should scare him.
Is that
every
prove
time.
that?
He sees color. He sees movement better, not detail as good. He might be getting old. Is he old? Their sight gets bad when they get older, just like people's do. So some dogs will go blind later in life, and you don't really. It's hard to know until because they're good at smell. They can find their way around with smell.
I have a deaf cat.
If you stand
He's 20.
completely still, animals do not notice
It
it.
screams all
Why are
day.
you staring at me?
I'm not.
Whoa, where'd you go?
I just like look at him.
What if I was gone? So that's sight. Now let's do hearing.
What'd you say?
Now let's do let's do hearing. Here's how hearing works.
That was kind of funny.
Sound waves come into the ear. They hit the eardrum here. This eardrum vibrates. It's attached to three bones. The malleus, the incus, and the stapes. They're the three smallest bones in the body.
Oh, the hammer, the anvil, and the...
Also called that. These are the Latin names. These things vibrate and move around fluid that's in this internal organ right here. This organ is called the inner ear. And it has two parts to it. The part that hears is this snail-shaped structure right here. It's called the cochlea. And that cochlea is full of little tiny hairs. And the hairs run the entire length of the cochlea. Low-frequency sounds, like if you get here early enough, you hear me coming in at the bass of my car. That's a low-frequency sound. And that vibrates the hairs near the end of the cochlea. High-frequency sounds are shorter wavelengths, and they don't travel very far into the cochlea, and they vibrate this hairs near the beginning of the cochlea. So it's the combination of all those hair movements that produces sound. Each little hair is attached to a nerve that goes to the brain. And listening to loud music will destroy those hair cells, or loud machinery or whatever, so you need to protect your ears throughout your life. From now on, if you're ever mowing the lawn or using a blower, put in ear protection. It's better not to go to all these concerts and crank your music in your car. You won't be able to hear later as well. People who don't have listen to all that are able to hear well throughout their lives.
What are the bones called?
These bones,
Yeah, you said
look,
they were
they're labeled right there. And these right here, these are the semicircular canals. Those are responsible for balance. What happens is there's little sensors at the bottom, and there's fluid in these canals. And when you move your head one way or the other, it sloshes the fluid around. So the fluid sloshes this way. The head knows that it's moving one way. The fluid sloshes the other. The brain knows it's moving the other.
What's this called?
This is balance. The sense of balance is controlled by these three semicircular canals.
Are those made out of...
Yes, that's how you get motion signals. The semicircular canals are situated in the three planes. There's one that goes up, and one that goes sideways, and one that comes out at you. So it doesn't matter how you move your head fluid will be sloshing in at least one of the semicircular canals. And then you have one in each ear. So there's a redundancy there. There's two of them. And so anytime you're moving, there are signals going to your brain telling it how your head is moving, and your brain keeps up with that, and that's your sense of balance.
What are those made out of? Cartilage?
This whole thing is made out of bone. But it's not considered a bone. It's actually considered an organ of hearing, so it doesn't count as one of the bones of the body. But if you took this out of a person, it would be hard. It would be bone. It would look like bone.
Is that why if you like can't hear, your balance is off or something? Is that true? If you like damage your ear, your balance.
Well, if you damage your ear, see, these two things are closely connected. So if you damage this part, it might be likely you damage this part if you had some kind of accident.
Real quick, this is a random question. What's the one bone in your body that's not connected to anything else?
The hyoid. That's running through.
Can you close it?
Here it shows the little hairs right there. Those are the little hairs that are inside the cochlea. And there's a little membrane here that sits underneath the hairs. See, there's the hairs. And sitting on top of those hairs is a membrane called the tectorial membrane. And that thing vibrates and activates the hairs. 38 is the chapter. It's on the sense